get started. It's always a little tough to be the first session after a break, but I expect that we'll have many more folks coming in shortly. So our first speaker in this track this afternoon is Anthony Kemp. He is the product platform owner in IAM for Air New Zealand. And so when we heard about this case study, it was actually Andrew heard about this case study, was very recent actually. We said, hey, you gotta come talk here. And I think Anthony got approved to come talk like yesterday. So please help me to welcome Anthony Kemp, who's gonna talk about Air New Zealand's experiences deploying Passkeys.
Oh, kia ora. So my name's Anthony. So I'll just go over Air New Zealand. Don't think you guys know our little country. So we're an airline. We aim for the best flying experience on Earth. We are a small scale airline, but we always keep customer at the heart of what we do. So it's important when I went through this process of looking at authentication to sort of keep that in mind. We have won quite a few awards for such a small airline around customer service and the way we treat our customers. We went on a journey to sort of translate how we treat our customers from a flying experience, from an aircraft at the airport type experience, to now translate that into an actual digital process as well. We were lacking for quite a few years in that domain, but we've gone through a lot of transformation to try and really uplift that experience in digital. And the best place to start that is the front door. And there we go. Because of our consumers' products, all of our stuff is customer facing. So we, of course, have natural challenges like everyone does in this domain. One of the key things was how do we start implementing security controls. So our focus was around privacy. We're holding airport data, meaning passport data, very private information. We held a lot of loyalty funds for customers, and they can add up to a lot of money. So it was how do we start finding better ways to help control, manage that process without making it hard for a customer. So we went through quite a few journey approaches on how to sort of approach all of that, but the main thing was looking at passwordless. I'm very ambitious around trying to make a difference, not just to make the same stuff that we have look the same and act the same, just look prettier. So I was going straight for passwordless and trying to build that. In New Zealand, because we have very small resources around skill sets and stuff like that, it's very hard to find skill sets in the identity space. And the key thing for us was how do you build an identity service for our loyalty customers and our retail customers. And like our challenges, we have a lot of fraud happening with questions and answers type stuff. You can't get away from that. Brute force, we would constantly get attacks every month. So we started a process of looking at Passkeys and how that could, over time, resolve a lot of our smaller issues in customer experience, but also how to improve our experience from a fraud and cyber attack. So implementing our journey was how do we get every application that we had across the MFA. MFA was sort of the key thing that we approached first. It wasn't going straight to Passkeys or going to passwordless. It was how do you introduce this other service of MFA to, one, secure the account, but also at the same time start introducing them to the concept of passwordless and Passkeys. After that, first part that was going to create change on was recovery accounts. So account recovery is a key part to how you authenticate. If you can get in, that's great. When you can't get in, that's really bad. And my execs and my board would not accept if I blocked customers from being able to purchase anything. So first approach was how do you recover no matter what we put in place, and how do we make that low impact to customers, yet using the same experience. Then after that, we were going to them approach adding Passkeys in, and then new registration process with Passkeys. So one of the approaches for the web aspect, we have around 200 applications for our customers, and they range from legacy mainframes up to the latest type of stack. The part that we looked at when we were going through was easiest solution to put in place on top of our current solutions. So an MFA solution was a key thing. So we partnered up with Signal to do our MFA. We didn't choose to just do one. We've done all of them, every option. We did email, we did SMS, we did security keys with FIDO, and we just went all out straight away. We avoided to do the only bit by bit, because customers actually already know what MFA is. Our digital savvy people in the world typically come from some corporate environment. And that corporate environment has your computers, your phones, and typically you get forced to do MFA in those corporate environments these days. So we took the approach of, these customers already know what this is. This isn't new. We're not trying to change the world here. We're just trying to give them what they expect. The expectation is they expect MFA. We didn't take the approach of, they didn't know what it was, they don't know why we're doing it. So we took that approach to put it in place. We did that in 3 months. The whole of our 4.6 million customers, we stuck in 3 months. In that 3 months, we didn't get anything come back at us saying, we don't know what's happening, we've lost customers, nothing. We gave them their options, and we gave them whatever option that they had available. So example was, we had customers' phone numbers. We knew which ones were verified, which ones weren't. That was their default. Nice and simple. People had emails. We knew those were verified, we defaulted those ones. We kept it simple at the beginning. And that keeping it simple got them used to MFA. And we just put it in place and everything was fine. When it came to recovery, that was a big change. So typically everyone goes to forgot username or forgot password. That's the typical aspects of account recovery. I took a very different approach and just went MFA and done passwordless. That was actually the approach I used for account recovery. And that was a very different way of doing things. But the whole concept, we went through risk assessments and explained recovery is passwordless, because all you're wanting to know is, give me something you know, and then we're going to send you an email for you to click and verify. That is technically passwordless. And so we took that approach of just going, we will supply you whatever MFA option you have once you give us something you know. And that's how we implemented passwordless as account recovery. That process in itself built that understanding, built the customer to accept you don't need a password to get in. But it wasn't just a flip. That flip was never going to happen. We would always get clashes, and we always get customers that freak out because I have to have a password to keep things safe. So this was the way to build that customer experience and give them that ease of getting in. It also took away a lot of issues because the airline has lots of use cases, probably ones that most people don't even realize. We have very elderly people to very young. We have pretty much like 1 week old accounts created in New Zealand because their parents want to get air points. They want to get the loyalty points. They're flying over to see their family in the UK or something, or the US. They want to get those loyalty points, so they register their child. Of course, so we have a large amount. So 4.6 million loyalty customers. There's only 5.5 million people in New Zealand. So we hold majority of New Zealand as our customers. So we have a large range. With that, there's a lot of relationships. So parents using the same email address for their kids, same phone number, so that data goes across. One of the things I got asked constantly from very techie people was, just mandate that they can only have one phone number and one email. That does not work for kids. Families do not have a phone number for their child. They do not have an email for their child that's only a couple of weeks old. So we couldn't take that approach. And I didn't want us to take that approach either. I wanted the customer to have the choice. And that also made it very difficult for our business to sort of understand a lot of those things of that impact. But one of the things after we did implement our MFA was the SMS problems. I've heard other people talk about it. Costs, SIM swaps, and roaming. That's sort of the industry that we're in, is roaming. You can't get MFA if you're in the aircraft, or if you suddenly got to another location, you don't turn on your SIM because you don't want to pay for it. So lots of people buy new SIMs and stuff like that. We don't want people swapping their phone numbers because that now makes it really insecure. So we had a lot of these issues when we first sort of looked at SMS, but our customers sort of accepted and just continued with turning on their SMS or moved to like magic links and stuff like that. Australia is probably the worst for SIM swaps. There is no real boundaries around taking someone else's phone number. It is quite easy to do it in Australia. We have a very large Australia-based customer set. So SIM swaps are quite common for us to sort of deal with. So these are the reasons why we don't trust our SMS down New Zealand. And the cost is, in New Zealand, in US dollars, it would be about 3.5 cents per text. Yep. And we text for codes like this, we text for disrupts, we text for a lot. So our SMS costs builds up very large for such a small amount compared to other larger organizations in the US or Australia or other countries. So that kicked into Passkeys. But my plan was always to have Passkeys because at this stage we already had security keys. Customers don't know what the heck that is. My designers had no idea. I took a month just explaining to the designers and our experienced people what Passkeys is. And the most in the end they got was, it's my phone. Nice and simple, it was their phone. That was their passkey. So we took a very simplistic approach on starting to build up passkeys. We went with providing recommendations to our customers. So if you're traveling, Passkeys is our recommendation, but in general, Passkeys is our preferred option because it deals with all of the situations that they were always getting stuck at. We do time-based reprompts. So down the bottom, you can see that we prompt the customer. We do that after they MFA. So I know who they are. Now I can give them passkeys. So we took that approach. And then we also just implemented our new registration pages that now also add the prompts during registration. So customers are starting to get used to it appearing all the time. When we launched, we got 30% uptake on our prompts because customers just saw, I don't have to wait for a text message. I don't have to wait for an email. I can just use this thing. Of course, because we already had security keys out there, a lot of our tech people in New Zealand already took up those type of options and quickly flipped over to use passkeys. Since that launch, we prompt during logins, so we are now getting around 20% uptake after logins. So it's quite high and it's staying quite high. We have improved our SMS login experience, so time-wise for customers to get in is much faster. It's 4.7 times compared to our SMS. SMS was the main authentication method. We dropped our adoption rate with all of this. That's not heard of, to actually get less drop-off when you put in MFA and passkeys. But it dropped because when we had the account recovery, it wasn't difficult. And that account recovery is what reduced our drop-off. So they may not have known how to recover, they got through that. The MFA option, because we gave them all options, not just one or two, we gave them all the options, they were able to find their way. And making those screens nice and simple for them to find their way reduced that drop-off. So we ended up getting more sales because we didn't have as much drop-off. That was great, because I'm in cyber. Cyber never makes money and never saves money. The other thing that we did find, we actually reduced our calls in the contact center. So we got less calls going to the contact center because they weren't getting blocked. And the contact center was very happy with that since we just came out of COVID. We have a lot of customers calling, wanting to rebook new tickets, use their credits and stuff like that. So reducing any volume was a massive win in our call center. But we saw about a 5 to 10% drop in calls just from putting this in place. So it was a massive win. But there was lots of learnings in all of this. So implementing Passkeys, because it's very, very new, the guidelines have still got lots of work. So some of the things that we got was people's on their iPhones were getting prompted for QR codes, was prompting on their phone. They had no idea what to do and why that was appearing. So what we found out was, because they're corporate users, they were using their work laptop. They registered Passkeys on their work laptop. That's Windows, not a Mac. So now it's on Windows. They pull out their phone, and then it's saying, use a QR code. Somehow get the Windows laptop to scan your phone to get you in. Of course, they didn't know what to do. That made it hard. So we had to put in some little tweaks to say, check the OS, check where the passkeys are. So don't present QR codes in those type of situations. Other things was on Windows machines, it does sound like I'm bagging Windows, but on Windows machines, it was also around when do you prompt for native passkeys compared to QR code. I've taken the approach of on Windows, default to QR code as much as possible. People's just come out of COVID, QR codes are more relatable. So I'm using what customers are used to get in. And typically, we want to use their phone because the phone is the one thing that is going to go with them when they're traveling. So getting passkeys on their phone is more important than having it synced through and all of that stuff. So we just move the customer to being more phone on those type of things. Other aspects of putting this in place was people getting past their thoughts on how to approach things. So because I did MFA in a very short window, everyone had certain expectations. So working through the business to break those boundaries was very difficult. So those learnings are hard. And that was harder to do the business than it was for our customers. The other aspects for customers was language around using passkeys and stuff like that. So we had to really approach the way we communicate passkeys with our emails and our websites and stuff like that. We didn't want to be technical, we're very customer focused, so we try to keep the language real basic. The other aspect is, this was all the approach for us to get to passwordless. So that learning on that one was, customers are now more free in options to move away from those things, but technically our systems are struggling. The solution we ended up putting in from a developer point of view, most of you guys would hate it if you're developers. We hate it as well, but it's the only way we had to cover our whole surrounding for web to get the experience for the customer. It was more important than trying to deal with the tech. Then we would decom the tech because from the customer viewpoint, they don't see it. So it gave us those type of options. Things that we're going into next is increasing our prompt for passkeys, autofill for passkeys, and passwordless. have to go at the same time. So I'm removing the password. Autofill will happen when they click on the username, and we will pull the passkeys on that. And then they will just get signed in. That approach is the cleanest approach to get the customer to not notice anything. As you can probably see, I didn't put any feedback up here around customer feedback and stuff like that. We didn't get much feedback. No feedback in my domain is the best feedback. If I get feedback from a customer saying, oh, I love the new login page, I love the new MFA, I feel more secure, it means they're noticing it too much. My domain is not here for customers to notice what I'm doing, it's there to not be noticed. So getting no feedback was amazing. Getting bad feedback would have been bad. But we didn't actually get real bad feedback. We got about, in total, 6 bad feedback that came through. And those things was small tweaks that we actually took in, some of them. And then the others was just customers' experience and what they sort of freaked out of no passwords and stuff like that on recovery and stuff like that. So those are sort of a big approach on how I sort of took the feedback. And that was shocking for everyone, that I wasn't doing the whole typical, oh, we need customer feedback, we need the view, we need to make sure they're all happy. The fact that they're not complaining and not noticing, I'm like, they're happy. We are trying to then go into our native mobile app. We only really have 2, and looking at getting passkeys done natively. I waited till this point to sort of talk about passkeys native. The part I'm struggling with passkeys native on a mobile app is I can't find a way for it to actually support OpenID. I'm very heavy on standards. I only follow standards because I want to make sure that it's going to be reusable and every other vendor that I bring on board for new products and services can integrate. There is no clean way to do passkeys with OpenID without doing a web view because it's using the web protocol. I've found ways to make things work for passkeys native, but that is a big part that we're still going through for learning, and I can't see that getting changed anytime soon. So I am going to be around. If any of you guys do have amazing ways of making the native work, I'd be happy to hear. But that is one part we are actually struggling with, trying to make a protocol that actually works for passkeys in that domain. We don't want to use web on our mobile app. It's a big no-no from my board. It's a big no-no from my execs. They're like, native, native, native. Mobile app has to go native as much as we can. This situation, I've had to find a way of just doing both. Make the username and the sign and all this part native, but once I click on it, we then flip over to web. So we're using a dual method to still make OpenID work. That's the approach. But I would prefer native fully, and so would my execs, but because we're so heavily on our standards, that's sort of a part that we got stuck with. I'm doing pretty well on time. Any questions?
Okay, the mic is on.
Hello, here is Sameh from Just Pass With Me. What you just said now is like music to my ears because we have a way of making OpenID work with passkeys, and we have native apps working. So just come by to our booth outside, and everything you have there is there. We actually also filed the patent for how to extend OpenID to work with passkeys. So,
Oh, it might come down.
I respect the game.
So, competitors, like other airlines, even other Star Alliance members, Air Canada, Canadian, but flown you guys, love you guys. Does those experiences on those mobile apps, web, does that feed into your decisions here as well?
Yeah, it does. One of the parts that we were trying to do, of course, was look at our competitors. There are none, and that's actually gone with MFA because everyone's got the idea of it's going to block our customers. So we have actually had more conversations now since we've gone live with other airlines around how they can actually now start flipping over to do a similar approach.
Here, then here, then we got to wrap.
I had a couple of questions. I posted them online, but I'll repeat them. Usually the recovery process for somebody is like they forget their MFA or they lose their authenticator, and then so you recover your MFA. But you mentioned that it's the other way. So you use your MFA to recover your account. So how does it work?
So when it comes to recovery, typically the recovery process actually to recover your username and password. And the only way to do that is to use something else. So because we give all the options to the customer, they have multiple options in there. So that's how we don't have the problem of, I don't have access to my email. So, okay, we'll send an SMS. I don't have access to SMS. Okay, we've got recovery codes. I don't have recovery codes. Oh, then use security keys. We have so many options for the customer that they can choose. That's how it got around all of that. I think if we took the approach of only having like email and SMS, we would have had that same issue. Yeah.
So what you're saying is like every customer has multiple methods, so you use any one of them to recover your account.
Yeah, and my recommendation would be very much, don't be afraid to give the customer all those options for this type of thing. Typically, you want to limit the options. This one, more options are better. Yeah.
The other question which I had is, like, you mentioned that you had mandated MFA for customers. So, like, we did something similar for our customers, mostly merchants. Did you find any roadblocks on like people not trying to, like, or was it like smooth thing that because you mandated it, so they had to do it, or people coming back to your support saying that I don't want to enroll in two-factor?
No, that's the part that I was trying to emphasize on. Customers actually expect it, especially in our loyalty program, since it's actually got financial backgrounds with the loyalty points. Mm-hmm. So customers expect this. So because it's not unexpected, they just accept it and just carried on.
So we actually have to wrap. Sorry. I said,
Sorry,
Anthony, I don't know if you can make yourself available maybe outside the room for a couple minutes, because there were some other folks that were hoping to grab you. But please help me to thank Anthony for this great presentation. Thank you so much. We just have a couple minutes to transition into the next sessions.